All right, here we are, Sports Bit, Betting Insight today, Monday, June 5th. Pauly and Teddy, big game breakdown. Good series opens up in LA. The Nationals and the Dodgers. And we also get to the deep dive. We continue with the NFC South. Atlanta Falcons already finished on Friday. Carolina Panthers up today. You can check out all the videos. We finished 2 divisions already up at SPR and YouTube as well. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books in a second. Well, the Warriors take care of business again. And you saw history as they win their 14th straight playoff game. Who the hell's going to win 15 in a row and be able to break this record? They also drop 132 points. Most points scored in a final since the 87 Lakers dropped 141 on the Celtics. Curry with a triple-double, Durant with 33, and a Klay Thompson sighting. He had 22 in the rout, Teddy.
Yeah, a lot of scary things for Cleveland from Game 2. The Cavs played hard. You know, remember, they didn't have a single steal in Game 1. We pointed that out here on Sports. But they had 15 of them last night in Game number 2. The Warriors, what'd they have? 4 turnovers Game 1. They had 20 in Game number 2. Still a blowout. The Cavs, what was the other bugaboo from Game 1? They didn't get any points in the paint. Well, they had 60 points in the paint last night compared to 40 for Golden State, and it didn't matter. Warriors, open threes all night long. They hit 18 three-pointers last night. 34 assists on 46 made baskets. That's ball movement, folks. Those are very, very scary stats for Cleveland moving forward in this series.
Well, maybe the game was over 3 hours before it started when Tyronn Lue said they wanted to go even faster and play up-tempo. That is a horrible idea, and you saw LeBron was gassed in the second half, too. You can't out-Warrior the Warriors. So, I mean, if they want to get back in this series and starting Wednesday, they have to slow it down and muck it up and make it ugly.
In theory, but I mean, again, you know, the Warriors hit a bunch of shots last night. And we saw, by the way, the markets really move towards the over in the last hour or two before tip-off. Once that info was out there, 220.5, it closed 222 in a lot of places. So a fair bit of over money in those last couple hours before tip-off. But, I mean, if you're Cleveland, you have to be who you are. And Cleveland, who they are this year, is not a defensive team. You know, they got to push pace. That's what they've done well all year. And the one thing they did last night, I mean, they forced turnover. Look at the quote from Steve Kerr. You know, we played that same game at Cleveland. There's no way we win, talking about the 20 turnovers. But, I mean, not many answers for Kevin Durant on the Cleveland side of the equation. What's he have? 71 points, 22 boards, 14 assists. He's been pretty unstoppable the first 2 games. And when you talk about Curry last night, you know, 32, 11, and 10. And Thompson breaking out of his shooting slump with 22 points and hitting 4 of 7 from beyond the arc. I mean, that's a pretty tough nut for this Cavs team to crack. Hence, the number, I was a little bit surprised to see this number for Game 3. I thought there'd be some adjustment for Cleveland. There wasn't. And the markets are saying, respect this Warrior team. The Cavs don't have a chance.
Yep, look at the series price now. Golden State minus 2,000. You shouldn't be surprised. They're going for 15 in a row, and they've kicked their ass in the first 2. Last year was last year. They traded Kevin Durant essentially for Harrison Barnes, and look how that's paying off. And now they get Thompson to break out. You mentioned all the silly turnovers. Also, Green was in foul trouble, and they still carry him out. How about this? I mean, this shows how big the mobile app is that you can bet on your phone, but also what the Cubs and the Indians have failed to do in the first 2 months of the baseball season. David Purdom, ESPN Chalk, at David Purdom on Twitter. Nevada Sportsbooks won $10 million on baseball in April, the second most profitable baseball month ever. It was also the second highest handle in April ever.
Yeah, I mean, one last word on Warriors-Cavs. That's, of course, the early money for Game 3, all on Golden State. Opened 225.5, and now we're seeing pretty much threes across the board for that Game 3. And look, you know, we talk about it over and over again here on Sports. Not over and over again, but pretty consistently, all the numbers coming out of Nevada, all the numbers that we can see, you know, the offshore numbers we don't have access to because obviously they don't exist. But the numbers for Nevada, every report we get, betting is up, handle is up, hold is up, the books are doing well. And, of course, you know, all of that money coming from the Cubs and the Indians bettors who got basically crushed in the month of April. To see that the second most profitable baseball month ever in April per gaming control, It just speaks volumes about how popular sports betting is and how popular it keeps coming and coming, Pauly. It's really, you know, you want to call it the gambling of the future, but sports betting's been popular forever, and it's not going anywhere. Let's put it that way.
All right, let's go rapid fire. Bad beats. The Tigers, White Sox total was 10. This was tough. It was 4-4 in the ninth. Tigers supposed to win 5-4 there, but Upton hits a 3-run walk-off, 7-4 Tigers.
Oh, yeah, anyone that was fading the steam on Detroit or fading the steam on the over, they thought they might have something, you know? White Sox in under 10, yeah, you're live. Oops, you're not live. 3-run jack from Upton to close out the game and gave Detroit the money, Detroit run line the money, all of that. Bad news for anyone there on the other side.
This was brutal. This is absolutely brutal. Nationals on the run line. 11-4 in the ninth. They win 11-10, a 6 spot. For the A's in the bottom of the ninth, the Nationals win, don't cover the run line. Bullpen now worse than the MLB with a 5.45 ERA. It also was 3-3 in the eighth, and the game went over, obviously.
The first half went way under. It was 1-0 after 5. I mean, if you had that under in the game, this was really bad for the books because there was a ton of over money. Total opened 8.5 and closed 9 over -130. Some books even moved to 9.5, so there was heavy over money. 1-0 after 5, the books are like, yeah, we get to keep all this. You know, 3-3 heading into the eighth, yeah, and then both bullpens imploded. Yeah, the Nats, 35-20 with the worst bullpen ERA in baseball. That's something. You don't see that very often.
Bad for the books also. Back to the Tigers game. Look at this move, $1.85 to $2.60. They pounded the run line, too. It was high as $3 at win. It was Verlander against Holmberg. And the money line, the run line bettors get bailed out, too, as Upton hits the 3-run bomb.
Yeah, again, a bad result, very bad result for the books, and a pretty bad beat if you had the White Sox or the under in that one.
And a 30-cent move on the Rockies, $1.15 to $1.45. They're in a tough division, but the Dodgers lost a couple in Milwaukee. The Rockies back in first place with the win.
Yeah, I mean, the markets haven't shown a ton of respect for Colorado yet because there's not a lot of sex appeal from the individual Rockies starting pitchers. There really isn't. You know, here we have Jeff Hoffman, you know, who's a guy who the market's like, meh, you know, but what's he so far? 3-0 with a 2.61 ERA, and the Rockies have won his 3 starts by 13 runs.
Up next, big game breakdown. Met in the playoffs last year. It's the Nationals and the Dodgers. They hook up for the first time at Dodger Stadium. We'll get to that. And the Panthers in the deep dive on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SPRPicks.com.
Go to SPROdds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBit. Time for a big game breakdown. As always, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Good one tonight. Nationals and the Dodgers. It's Gonzalez against Ryu. Dodgers $1.38 the total. Early money on the over. They met last year in the playoffs. Dodgers 1-5. It was a great series. 1 Game 5 on the road in D.C. This is the 3rd straight road series for the Nats. But one of the easiest transitions. A week in the same hotel with the Giants and the A's. Then the short Sunday night trip to L.A. The Harper suspension did not derail momentum. Went 2-1 without him. Scored 20 runs and 37 hits. So he's ready to go. He's back. Gonzalez, up and down. 4-1 with a 3.03 ERA. Despite the walks his walks per 9 innings are up. Second worst of his career at 4.6. Living dangerously, Teddy.
Well, yeah. I mean, the market's not big fans of Gonzalez, and it's easy to understand why. You know, the overall numbers have been solid. 4-1, 3.03 on the campaign. But the walks and the home runs continue to be red flags for this guy. Right now, he's averaging 4.6 walks per 9 inning. That's the second worst of his MLB career. And his home run to fly ball ratio, 14.5. That's the worst of his career. I mean, each of his last 9 starts, he's walked at least 3 batters every time. And Washington's won, 5 of those games. They have a winning record in those 9 games. And Gonzalez has been able to work his way out of trouble with a 3.58 ERA. But this is one stat you don't want to be in the top 5 in or bottom 5 in walks per 9 innings. And obviously, with the bullpen issues that they've had, again, getting lit up yesterday, this team has the offense. They got the lineup to win a World Series. They got the starting pitching to win a World Series. And right now, they do not have a bullpen that's going to take them that far.
When do you make a move? You have to, right?
I would think so. And I would think it would be sooner rather than later. But again, there's no pressure in the division. You're still 15 games over 500. You can wait. You can wait till closer to the trade deadline. But at some point, you got to do something.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Dodgers offense, model of inconsistency over the past week. 3 games of 9 runs or more. 4 games of two runs or less. Got shut out twice. And with they're being shut out in the 9th of 1 more. And who was it? Bellinger, our buddy, hit the home run. And they won in extra innings. Ryu made the turn, maybe. Opened 1-5 with an ERA of 5. But over last 3 appearances, 1 in relief, 15 innings pitched, 3 runs, 12 hits, 9 strikeouts, and 3 walks. His season best, 12.8 pitches per inning in each of his last 2 appearances. Is there a buy sign here?
There is. You know, I mean, the only run that he allowed at St. Louis in his last start, it was a BS run. Chris Taylor misjudged a line drive that went over his head for an RBI double. It could easily have been ruled an error, but that's not the way baseball scores play, so it gets charged to Ryu. But listen to this quote from Dave Roberts. Quote, "He did have a really good look in his eye. The change was really good. He was throwing a little cutter in on right-handers, and the fastball played up, and it was as much velocity as we've seen from him, as we've seen this year from Hun Jim." So we're talking about a hurler who has not pitched well this season, has some ugly stats, but the manager's saying he's got a buy sign. The last 2 starts, or his last 2 appearances, have been saying, look at that pitches per inning. He's got a buy sign. And, of course, behind him, he's got Kenley Jansen. 22 appearances, still sitting within 0.26 FIP and 40 strikeouts, 0 walks, and only 15 hits allowed. You want to see a sick graphic? Look at this graphic right here. Yeah, Kenley Jansen, pretty darn good over the last 2 seasons, closing out games for LA.
All right, go to SPR Odds and Sportsbook Review. Check out the rating guide. Make sure you're betting with a trustworthy shop out there. Game number 2. Blue Jays and A's. Hap against the throwing Samoan. The A's are $1.15, 8 the total. Give credit to the Blue Jays. They got up off the mat. Did lose a series at home against the Yankees, but 10-3 in their last 13. Only 5.5 out of the East despite the slow start. The throwing Samoan showing what the A's have been hoping for. Respectable 7-9 with the 3.86 last year, but only 3 career starts at AAA. Now a 3.91 ERA may look like the same thing, but check out the splits, Teddy. Before the DL, 24 innings pitched, ERA of 5.18. Post DL, 24 innings pitched, a 2.33. And the last 2 starts, 14 innings, 1 run, 17 strikeouts in Cleveland and New York. Beautiful.
Yeah, when you're going 14 innings of work and only having 9 base runners compared to 17 strikeouts against tough lineups on the road at Cleveland and in the Bronx, you start to say maybe this guy really is over the hump. Here's what Manaea said after that Cleveland win. This whole year, it's kind of been a mental thing, just not having confidence in myself and trusting my stuff. New York was finally the turning point. I was upset with myself and how I had been thinking, and just having a different mindset has been huge. I took that into today. And you say with, Terry Francona after that game. It's always interesting to hear what the opposing manager is saying about the pitcher he just faced. Quote, "He was really good. He's kind of across his body with his fastball, and he's got some run. Kind of got a funky arm slot, and then that changeup, breaking ball, he did a number on us." So, we talk about the elite pitchers in MLB, and some of the numbers that we're seeing from Sean Manaea are starting to say that. 10.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's impressive. And a 50.8 ground ball rate. That's impressive. When you're talking about a guy that's striking out more than 10 an inning and keeping the ball on the ground, now you're talking about a guy with some legitimate upside. But, of course, when you're betting Oakland, you need more than just the throwing Samoan. The bullpen struggling. Madsen gave up 3 runs in the 8th on Sunday, and then Frankie Montas gave up 5 more in the 9th.
Now you got Hap, one of the biggest single-season drops of any pitcher. Last year, a 20-4 with a 3.61. This year, 0-3 with a 4.50. But this is crazy. Nothing has really changed. Look at this graphic and these splits. You see the strikeout, this graphic, that these stats, the strikeouts per 9 are way up. The walks per 9 are way down. The ground ball percentage, the swinging strike percentage, and the miles an hour are up too. That's his average fastball. So he's been better across the board at some of the key stats. But look at this one, though, Teddy. The home runs per 9, and home run fly ball percentage with the ratio there. Not good. The ball's going in the air and leaving the park.
Yeah, not good at all. But remember, last start out, first game back off the DL. He had elbow inflammation. And he gave up 2 runs in the first against Cincinnati, and then he settled right down. Here's what his quote after that start. "It was a battle. I expected that the first time getting back out there. I kind of settled down after those couple of runs in the first there, and I got out of a couple of jams. I'll get better with command. That's going to come, I think. But physically, I felt good. I didn't feel held back in any way." And, of course, Toronto manager John Gibbons talking about Hap after that start. "I was encouraged before the arm strength was there. You could tell he hadn't pitched in a while. His last inning was good. It was key. It got him to where we kind of wanted him to get. That being said, from a starting pitching standpoint, Oakland has the edge in this ballgame. Hap, in his second start back from the DL, isn't a likely candidate to throw an ace-level performance here."
Up next, deep dive. Carolina Panthers, 2 years ago, 15-1 in the Super Bowl. Last year, last place. They're up next on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SPRpicks.com.
What's up, everyone? I'm Drew Martin with SBR. Want to give you an update on a free handicapping contest that we're putting together. It's called the MLB June Bet Points Contest. The purse is 1,500 SBR bet points, which go to the top 5 finishers. The top 5 finishers also get an SBR t-shirt, and the winner of the contest can be featured on one of SBR's shows. I'm Drew Martin for SBR. Make sure to find it on the SBR tab on the SBR website. I'll see you in the contest.
Back on SportsBit, Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Before we get to the Carolina Panthers, we know you guys watch this religiously. Thank you very much, but you take this seriously. You got a couple things you got to take advantage of here. It's a big investment, and we're not asking you a lot. Go to the top bonuses page to find a top-rated book with a tempting bonus on offers. Some of the top sports books are offering 50% bonuses of up to $2,500. You heard me. As high as $2,500. Change the course of your season by giving yourself a head start when it comes to building your bankroll. Check it out again, the top bonuses page at the top at SBR. Time for the Carolina Panthers. Now, how about this? 2 years ago, 15-1. Now they went 6-10 last year. The win total is 9, 120 to the over. 6-10 straight up last year. Exactly what Atlanta's facing. Everything that went wrong, everything that could go wrong, did go wrong. 2-6 straight up in games decided by a field goal or less, starting from the get-go. Week 1 in Denver when Gano missed the game-winning field goal. 6-9-1 ATS, 7-8-1 to the under, Teddy. It was a wild season.
Yeah, and it was they couldn't win any close games. I mean, we're not talking about games by a touchdown or less. When you lose 6 times by a field goal or less in a single season, coming off a Super Bowl appearance, you know, it was like they kept on getting gut punched, and it didn't end all year long. But we look at their mainstream stats, they weren't that bad. They weren't the last place mainstream stats, Pauly. Take a look.
Turnovers, they were -2. 27 takeaways was top 10. 29 giveaways, bottom 5. Only other teams with as many or more giveaways: Jets, Chargers, Bears, Rams, and Jags. Hideous. All 5-11 or worse. All sit under their season win total as well. The offense, 5.2 yards per play, 4 yards per rush. Those are both slightly below average. 7 yards per pass, and 36 sacks allowed. Your thoughts on the defense?
Well, I mean, the defense had 47 sacks. That was number 2 in the NFL. They had 3.9 yards per rush allowed, top 10 in the NFL in rush defense. But even with the good rush defense, and even with the ability to pressure opposing quarterbacks, they still allowed a QB rating of 92. That's slightly below average. So when you talk about all those offensive stats, yards per play, yards per rush, yards per pass, all slightly below average. The QB rating allowed also slightly below average. And all of those slightly belows led to a very disappointing campaign. But it's not a hopeless defense, not by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, when you look what Carolina did in the offseason, yeah, they put a little bit of money in the defense. And they have a new defense coordinator in Steve Wilks. You know, he's been their secondary coach since Ron Rivera got there. He's going to replace Sean McDermott, who's now the Buffalo Bills head coach. But, you know, they had a little bit of upgrade on that secondary. But most of what they did in the offseason was trying to get all those slightly below averages on offense back up to above averages when this offense was elite in Cam Newton's MVP season the year before.
I think they hit it out of the park in the draft. A home run with McCaffrey. He can do it all. And what a weapon, as he was a top 10 pick. They also take Samuel. Ted Ginn goes to New Orleans. Good riddance there. McCaffrey's been killing it in practice so far. Although who knows when Newton's coming back, as he's coming off of shoulder surgery, so they don't expect him till maybe July or August, Teddy.
Yeah, and this was not a good offensive line last year, and Newton took a beating a season ago. He really did. And we're talking about a guy who was the NFL MVP 2 years ago. Best QB in the league that season. Last year, what do you have? 90 carries, 359 yards on the ground. That was his lowest total since entering the league. His completion percentage was below 53%. That's almost 7 points lower than it was in 2015. And, of course, he underwent surgery on his throwing shoulder in March. He said that he was playing for more than a month at the end of the season with a tear in his rotator cuff, but he played through it to demonstrate leadership for his teammates. But now you have all of these offensive weapons. You're talking about your number 1 pick, McCaffrey, your number 2 pick, Curtis Samuel, out of Ohio State. They're going to have to spend their time getting ready and learning the offense with Derek Anderson, and then hopefully they'll get a chance to cram with Cam in August.
Yep, back to the draft. McCaffrey was 8th overall. Second round, they took Samuel, the wide receiver out of Ohio State, Morton, the tackle from Western Michigan, also in round 2, and then defensive end Hall from A&M in round 3. Hall can help out. He'll play behind Peppers and Johnson as well. Secondary, they re-signed Teddy Williams. They lost McDermott, as we mentioned, defensive coordinator. Ginn goes to New Orleans, as I mentioned as well. That's about it with some of the moves. What do you have on the schedule?
Well, the schedule is going to be easier than it was last year. Last year, their schedule was somewhat tougher than average. And this year, on paper, based on 2017 win totals, their schedule is slightly easier than average. That being said, boy, they got a rough run in October. 4 roadies in 5 weeks. The only home game a Thursday nighter against Philadelphia. But when you look at this schedule, and all of a sudden you start going through the first month of the season, at San Fran, Buffalo at home, New Orleans at home, the one game at New England, but then Detroit and then Philly at home and Chicago, you say, man, 6-1, 5-2, it's not hard to picture Carolina getting off to a good start and propelling their momentum forward into the back half of the campaign. And the markets are telling us to expect a bounce back from Carolina. A team that won 6 games last year is lined at 9 with juice on the over. I can certainly understand why the markets are enthusiastic about this team heading into the campaign.
Well, that could be a very easy schedule. I'd lean over on that one. Saints tomorrow. Money time. Play of the day. Where are we going?
Let's go to L.A., man. We've got a hurler with misleading season stats. That, of course, is you for the L.A. Dodgers, who had some real rough outings earlier in the campaign. His last 3, he seems to have straightened himself out. He's got buy sign for me. The Dodgers, very reasonable price to take L.A., especially considering the fact that if it comes down to 2 bullpens, Dodgers probably a $2 favorite. -130 with the L.A. Dodgers. That's game number 9-10. That's our play of the day.
Good point about the bullpens. Saints tomorrow. We continue the NFC South. Football right around the corner. And we'll get to Game 3, which comes up Wednesday as well later in the week, right here on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SPRPicks.com. Thanks for watching.